good system to use. However, it also has a couple different question types. So if you're trying to do some sort of quiz that has hotspots, categorization, different scoring for multiple answers, there's a few different question types that feature is handy for. But for right now, we're going to stick with just creating a quiz in your Canvas course. So you're going to go to the module that you want to put your quiz in. And from the drop down, add a quiz and title it. Not like that. I don't even know what I hit there. Title it and then add the item. And your quiz will show up at the very bottom of whatever module you added it to, and you can drag and drop it wherever it belongs. By default, it'll be unpublished until you publish it. So that's good when you're setting up your quiz. You know nobody's going to see it but you. So immediately you can see all of the default settings that they have for a quiz. But then when we go into edit, we're going to edit all of those settings. So there's two tabs at the top. There's the details tab and the questions tab. In the details tab, you can add quiz instructions, and that's going to be anything that you would normally tell students. The length of the quiz, what format it's going to be in, what they're allowed to use. It's helpful to be as explicit as possible with those instructions, especially for online. If it's stuff that's sort of assumed face-to-face, it's better if you can really say all of those things here. Even if you said it before, and even if you think they already know it, people get nervous in quizzes, and so it's good to have all that information written out here. You'll want to put your quiz in whatever category it belongs in, and so these assignment categories are things that you can set up in assignments. They're assignment groups is what they're called. And this is important if you have a final grade that weights different categories. So if this is a quiz that, you know, all of the quizzes come out to 20% of the grade, you want to make sure that it's in your quizz's assignment group. You can decide if you want to shuffle all of your answers or not. That's helpful if you want to sort of prevent a little bit of cheating, because then question two's answer might be B for somebody, it might be A for somebody else. The only time you don't want to use that is if you have questions that the order matters. So if it's A, B, and C are correct, those question responses all need to stay in the same order. Or if you have all of the above, that question response has to be the final one in that list. And you can set up a time limit. So whatever the reasonable length of time is for them to take that quiz, you enter that. And if they're allowed multiple attempts. The feedback is sort of what you want, what you're comfortable allowing. So you can let students see all of their responses. They'll see what they got correct and they'll see what they got wrong. And if you want students to be able to see the correct answers, you can set that up so that they can only see the correct answers for everything, even the stuff they got wrong, after the quiz closes for the whole class, or you can do it immediately. It depends on the quiz and what you want to allow them. The access code is useful for certain assignments. It's not really recommended like as a general practice just for a regular quiz, because there's other ways to restrict when students can get into a quiz. But there are certain circumstances when that's kind of useful. So you can add an access code there. But if you don't have one, you have the option to assign this quiz to different sections of your class or individual people. So you'll set up a due date and an availability date. And so that availability date needs to start from the moment you want students to be able to access the quiz, and then end either at the due date or after the due date if you're going to allow them to take it late. In general, even if your class usually runs for 50 minutes 3 times a week, and usually this is like a Wednesday quiz at noon, when you're working online, it's sometimes easier for students to have a 24-hour window. So that's why this time limit's really useful, because then you're still locking students into just having that one amount of time. But with a larger window, like a 24-hour window, it allows students to like get access to the only computer in the house for that time that they need it, or find a quiet place to work. It might be a little more difficult than if they were able to just kind of come into class at that time. So it's recommended to give a little bit more flexibility for online quizzes than you would in your face-to-face class. You can also add exceptions for particular students. So let's say Jay can only take the class. She can only take the quiz. I don't know. Today, I guess we set this on already for today, but I'm not gonna worry about this too much right now. But so if Jay needs to take the exam early, or if she needs to take it a little bit late, you can set up a special time just for Jay to take this, where the rest of the class has a different schedule. So that'll default your first assigned group to everybody else. So everyone in the class takes it at one time, Jay takes it at a separate time. And then you save. And then you want to go back to edit and work on your questions. So you can add a question group, which is helpful if you have maybe groups of questions, like you have 5 questions that all kind of ask the same type of thing, and you want the system sort of randomly give 3 of those questions to every student. That's a good way to make sure that students are kind of getting a mix of questions, and it's a little harder to cheat. Otherwise, just create 1 new question. The default points is always 1, so you can change that to however many points it should be. And then select your question type. Fill in your question. It's a rich text editor also here, so you can use images or equations or which one is the correct answer. For each response type that you have, the green ones, the ones that say correct, and the green ones are the right answers, and everything else are the incorrect answers. You can add in feedback for every single response. So if you want to say this is wrong because of these things, and this is correct because of these things, to sort of reinforce why you asked the question and what they were supposed to get from it, that's feedback that they'll get when they submit their responses. At the end of every question that you create, you have to hit the update question button. You also have to hit save. You have to do both of those things, or it's not going to update your questions as you go through. So you update, you hit save, and you just go through and you get all your questions in. And then you're done. And then when you're ready, you can publish your quiz, go back to the quiz, and then there's the option to moderate this quiz. And that's where I can go in and I can give Jay an extra attempt if I want to, and I can give her extra time too. If she needs extra time, you can do that per student, and then it'll show you it'll show you their score after they've taken the quiz. It'll show you the time that they spent on that quiz, how many attempts that they've taken, and how many they have left. And that's also where you can go and grade when students have completed the quiz and you're ready to grade. It'll also show up in your home page. It'll let you know when there are things that are ready to grade. So I think, Jay, am I missing anything? I think that's about it for the walkthrough, but if there's questions about that, or if there's interest in seeing new quizzes, I'd happy to answer any of those.
Hi, I have a question about the moderating that you just showed.
Yeah.
Can we use moderating to assign TA graders to grade the quizzes? Is that the same? I was just researching moderating yesterday.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
Your question is if the TA can go in and give a student extra time or an extra attempt on a quiz, right?
Well, the moderating part that you just went through went by pretty quickly. So I guess let's just talk about that part. So what are you using the moderating for? That was for giving extra time?
Yeah, I was using it to show how to add special exceptions for students.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of like assigning groups of students or groups of students to TAs is that what you're asking about?
Well, so this is totally off topic, I think. So we have some math faculty who want to keep the identities of the graders hidden because sometimes they are peers of the students in the class. And Canvas community recommend using moderating for that, which is, I think, a completely different thing.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that.
Sure, no problem. Don't worry about it.
Okay. But it's possible that, I don't know, it's possible that speed grader might be, it might be something that you can set up more easily here, at least in terms of like alphabetically, I don't know.
Okay, cool.
And I think I did read somewhere that you could have it be anonymous as to who graded things. I believe is probably something more in the settings.
Yeah, that's a settings thing, and the moderating is also a different setting, so it's confusing that there's two different uses for moderating. But the the anonymous grading, I guess, reveals the grader after the grade is submitted or something like that. So it's not totally anonymous.
Mm.
Yeah, which is not ideal, but anyway, that's off topic, sorry.
I think it's still a little relevant in terms of looking it up. It looks like Canvas did open or roll it out in last year around the summertime in terms of moderating, anonymous grading. So they do have the two features, anonymous grading and moderate grading. And I can send out a link on the information I just found.
Thank you. I was just looking at that same thing yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if anybody else is interested, I'll post a link in the chat.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Sure.
If we had time, or pretty much it looks like we do, we were wondering if anybody was interested in seeing what new quizzes look like and being able to see the interface and how that differs from what we just went over, which is called classic quizzes. in Canvas. And classic quizzes are pretty much the default within all of Canvas courses right now. New quizzes would be a feature you would have to turn on in settings. If you guys want, you guys can unmute your mics, or you can also type into the chat to let us know if you're interested in seeing that, we can also provide more information. So we'll go off of people in the chat to let us know.
Sure, that would be kind of cool to see. I'd like to see the new quiz features.
Great.
Great. So it's something that you have to turn on in settings. It's a feature option, so I have it turned on here. The annoying thing about it is that you can't get that option when you go to your modules. You have to go directly to quizzes in order to be able to have the option of using new quizzes. So you have to go to quizzes, and then later from modules, when you select quizzes, you can select the quiz that you created over here. So when you go to add quiz, it'll give you the option of classic quizzes or new quizzes. And a lot of it is pretty similar. You title it, but it looks different. Defaults to 0 points, so you just enter in your points, your assignment groups, and then you still assign dates in the same way. But then
Amy, I don't remember that external URL or third-party tool being part of the original. So is that a new thing in the new quizzes?
Yeah, I don't either. I guess it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it is one thing that's different in terms of the interface with the new quizzes. However, it's not something that you can change. So if you were to go into your new quizzes and try to click on that drop-down menu, it's not active.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So it kind of leads you through all of the steps. So same instructions panel, and then here are your question types. And so this isn't one that's in the regular classic quizzes, and then I think hotspot also isn't in classic quizzes. There's also a difference in grading for multiple answers here versus in classic quizzes. So like one will give you partial credit for getting some of the answers correct, and the other is all or nothing for scoring for multiple answers. Yeah, I guess same option to use question banks. An additional option to align to outcomes, which isn't in classic quizzes. It has an on-screen calculator, which you can enable for the quiz. Yeah, I don't know. So, and then all of the options for setting and moderating. So like viewing responses, attempts, and allowing special exceptions are all up there. But overall, I think the best thing to do when you're trying to figure out which quiz you need is, first of all, decide if you need any sort of proctoring, and that'll sort of eliminate new quizzes if you need that. And if you don't need that, then to go through that this comparison chart for what you can do in each one, and if there are certain question types, or if there are certain features that you really want in new quizzes, then it's a good thing to turn on. It can be a little difficult to go back and forth between the two. So if you're used to using one, just because the interfaces are different, it's hard to sometimes switch back and forth between the two. So it's kind of better to figure out what you really want to do and then stick with one or the other.
So we
Uh,
have a question on what is hotspot about?
I'm sorry?
A question on what are hotspots?
Oh, that's a question where you might have like an image or map or something, and then the correct answer is to click on a certain place on that image. So if it's a map, it might be that the hotspot is Pennsylvania, and your question, the answer is Pennsylvania, and you have to click on that state, something like that.
Does that answer your question, Andrea?
Yeah, that does. I was just curious to know how that works. So is it like an image and then students can just hover over some part of the image, or do you have to enter those particular data responses,
Yeah, you enter in
test items?
an area where it's correct. Like you'd
Oh.
enter that in, and then they'd have to click on that correct area.
Okay, cool. So it's just about having an integrated image of some type. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I just sent out in the chat this page that Amy is going over. So this pretty much has a comparison between the classic and the new quizzes and the differences between them. So you also notice like Amy went over the different question types. So you notice that hotspots is only available in new quizzes, such as categorization and stimulus. Those are also ones that are only available in new quizzes. Other limitations that come with new quizzes are the like proctoring services. If you guys are looking to proctor any of your exams, that new quizzes doesn't work well with third-party tools. So like Respondus wouldn't be a good tool to use within new quizzes. So just something to be mindful of in terms of the limitations. I also wanted to go over more information that covers, and Amy also mentioned that once you turn on new quizzes within a class, you're not able to turn it back off. So know that that's also something to be mindful of. Another one is being able to know that you can also award a partial credit within quizzes, in new quizzes, but you can't do that in classic quizzes. Another huge thing if you use question banks is if you build out question banks in classic quizzes, and let's say your next quiz or your next exam, you're halfway through the semester, you really do want to do partial points, and you switch over to new quizzes, know that you cannot access those question banks that you created in classic quizzes. So that's another limitation just to be mindful of. So we do have 4 minutes left. I wanted to see if anybody had any other questions that you guys wanted to see, or have any questions that we can answer for you.
Are we moving towards the new quiz option? Is that sort of the direction we're going in at this point? I'm curious because if we're creating test items and quizzes in the old version and we can't transfer them and then find out that that we're all going into the new version, it sounds like it's a pilot right now, but is it one that you think is going to kind of be the 3.0 version of the quizzes in Canvas?
I don't know if anybody else knows this better. They could answer it. I don't think that that's likely to happen, at least not anytime soon. And I think, it's a valid question because to have to transfer all of your quizzes would be a pain. But
yeah, I have to agree with Amy. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Especially with this little correspondence. If we started seeing things maybe ramp up from both Canvas and leadership, then maybe. But right now, I think it's more of just a selective option on what you want to do. But we'll definitely keep everyone updated if we do hear any more on it.
Okay, cool. I appreciate the responses. Thanks.
And chances are, if something like that does come down, the different teams at ASU will probably work on a solution of somehow mitigating the lift, possibly some sort of migration tool or something. It's usually the case, at least it was when it's migrating from Blackboard to Canvas.
And And that's the same with the Canvas community. They also let you know in terms of whoever has a Canvas account that they send out information to everybody individually, letting them know that they're rolling out a new feature and then when the changes are going to be coming up. So more likely, I think maybe next year that new quizzes might be the default, but that's something we don't know yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Amy, you can go back to the presentation. We can finish out the rest of our slides.
Okay. Can you not see?
Oh, so we do have links on, I didn't know if you wanted to change it back to the present mode. So this slide pretty much has links. If anybody was interested in any one of these, feel free to let us know in the chat and I can also show you these. These are pretty much examples, pretty much on step-by-step on how to do what Amy demonstrated from the beginning in terms of building out, creating, building, and deploying your exams within Canvas. And then the last one, she pretty much goes over to moderating, giving more time and giving more attempts on an exam.
Okay. Is that?
Yeah, the next slide. And then the next slide, I believe, was the Q&A. And if you guys have any questions outside of this, feel free to interact with the Slack channel, which is called FSE Teaching and Learning. If you're an engineering faculty, you might already be in that channel. If not, you guys are welcome to send us an email. For engineering, it's fsecanvas@asu.edu. And for the college, their email is thecollegeonline@asu.edu.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate it. Unless there's any final questions, I think we'll end it here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
If you're still on and you want to know of any other upcoming presentations, we have one tomorrow. That one will be going over labs. So thank you very much for all your time and look forward to hearing from you. Have a good day.